Armand here with the forecast for the week of August 29th, 2022. And the first thing that you'll notice is it's the end of August. We're coming into September. Now, usually September, it's Virgo season. It's time to get back to normal, get back to routines, very Virgoan thing. It's back to school. It's the vacations are over. Summer is winding down, the most optimistic way to put it. It's, perhaps it's over. Labor Day weekend is coming. In the US, that was always the end of summer, sort of still the end of summer, I suppose. Kids go back to school now before Labor Day, which I think is criminal. They're not, don't seem to be getting all that much smarter to me. They should, after Labor Day. Anyway, but I digress. The thing is, this year, very unlikely that we're going to feel that we're getting back to normal in September. And particularly because October is such a very, very charged month. So my sense of it is that September is sort of setting the table for October, and September is a little bit wonky. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, Mercury is going to go retrograde on the 9th. So keep that in mind. That's one thing that is happening in September. We have some other aspects that are sort of setting up, and the Mercury retrograde is a big part of that, but we're not quite there yet. We start this week on the 29th, on Monday, coming out of the new moon in Virgo. Now, the new moon in Virgo is exact on the 27th, really the late hours of the 26th into the 27th. So as we start the week, we are starting to come out of the new moon, and that is a pretty good time for action. I would say from Tuesday onwards, and because we do have things going on this week, I would say that probably this is, with all due respect to Mercury retrograde and all of that, probably not a bad time to get stuff done as the moon waxes out of the Virgo new moon. You have a little bit of a ambition to do things. Now, last week ended with really coincident with the new moon. We had Venus squaring Uranus, Venus and Leo squaring Uranus and Taurus. Now, on Wednesday of last week, Uranus, the 24th, Uranus stationed retrograde. So Uranian energy is vibrating through the collective. Independence, change. We want things to be different. We want to mix things up. We make reversals. We're going forward, we turn around and go backwards. We've stepped away, we're going to come forward again. We're always mixing things up when we have a Uranus station, and Venus steps right into that. So finances, lots of ups and downs in the financial markets, for example, last week. Relationships, things may have been sort of spinning in odd orbits in terms of your relationships. Lots of possibilities. That's a very Uranian word. So a lot of possibilities towards the end of last week. And then on Sunday, and you may be watching this on Sunday. On Sunday, the 28th, we have Venus opposite Saturn. So of all the possibilities, of all the potentials, we have to shake down and say, well, what's realistic? Right. So lots of possibilities generated last week. We come into the week of the 29th saying, well, which of those possibilities actually has legs? Which one of these things can we make work? Could be a little bit heavy, but it's a decision kind of time made right around the new moon. So it's the time to build on those decisions. Okay, that's our bit of advice. It's a time to build on those decisions that you've made. So we move away from the Uranian energy, we get into the Saturnian Virgo feel to things, very earthy, practical. What can you actually do? What can you actually do? Is a really good question. I would say whatever it is, do it. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, do it. Now, on the 1st and 2nd, we have these nice aspects. Mars will sextile Jupiter and Mercury will oppose Jupiter. All other things were equal, and they're not. If all other things were equal, I would say this would be a pretty good opportunity for getting to an agreement on things. Especially this Mercury in Libra, opposite Jupiter in Aries, and then there's Mars coming in from Gemini. It makes a lot of sense to think about this as being kind of a time to broker an agreement, to come to a compromise, to negotiate something. Right? Let's all well and good, except for the fact that both Mars and Mercury are going to be throwing on the reverse thrusters before too long, particularly in this case, Mercury, because Mercury is going to retrograde on the 9th, which means that although he's connecting with Jupiter on the 1st or the 2nd, he's going to come back and connect with him again, going retrograde. And that is happening on September 18th. And then it's not going to be until mid-October that he comes forward and makes another contact with him. So whatever gets agreed upon, negotiated, and brokered at the beginning of September may need to be renegotiated and rebrokered, and the diplomacy might need to be revisited all the way through mid-October. Once we get there, though, we'll see that there's what we started to do in early September can reach a fairly good conclusion in October. Don't forget, if you have to redo things and you have to renegotiate, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean that things aren't good. I mean, at least you're opening up the potential. At least you're opening up the lines of communication. It may take a while to work the details out, but at least you're getting something started. That's about the way that I would think about what happens in the early part of September, particularly towards the end of the week. But you know what? Don't spend too much time working on this, because we also have Venus at the very last degrees of Leo. Next week, she's going to go into Virgo. So Venus at the end of Leo gives us an opportunity for some fun, perhaps some romance, certainly an upbeat social feel at the very least. It's kind of like, maybe an artistic project, or going to see an art exhibit or see some music or something like that. Do your own creative thing, really highlighted through this week. So that's a great time for doing stuff that is fun, enjoyable, creative, artistic, all of that kind of stuff. Really gets a nice big push at the end of this week. And to add into the fun, we also have Venus making a connection on Sunday. So we can say all through the end of, let's say, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we have Venus making a nice connection with Pallas Athene, who's at the end of Gemini. Now, Pallas Athene is kind of the truth teller asteroid. She's the goddess of wisdom who carries a sword. It's really a spear, but you know what I'm saying. This is here comes the direct truths kind of energy. It's very Libran sort of energy, but it's the sword end of Libra, not the scale end of Libra. If you think about goddess justice or the justice card in tarot, this is more the sword end of things. This is more the implementation of justice. This is more the implementation of the truth. So with Venus at the end of Leo, making an aspect to Pallas Athene at the end of Gemini, very good time to communicate about relationships. Communicate your feelings, communicate your thoughts, let people know what you want, let the other person know what you're thinking. Is probably a good idea to get that done sometime this week. If you wait until next week, Venus and Pallas will still be pretty close to each other, but Venus will be in Virgo and Pallas will be in Cancer. We have a very particular sign looking for the details, and Venus is not so happy in Virgo. And then we have the protective energy of Cancer, maybe not ideal either. So I would say that if you got something to say, get it off your mind, or whatever you want to get it off of. Do so this week, maybe towards the end of the week. And we come to the first quarter moon. That's going to be on Saturday. That is certainly a very active time. That's the time when you would want to, anything that, well, you could say towards the end of the week is a good time to put things into operation, things you've been planning for the week. You can sort of get active with them as you get to Friday and Saturday. So again, the first quarter moon is great for socializing. The first quarter moon in this case is going to be in the sign of Sagittarius, which is a fun fire sign. So, that'll work very well with Venus in Leo and all of that too. So I would say that, make it a good weekend, have a good time, and we'll see you back here next week.